drug that makes you forget enough. This is a story about a thirst that can never be quenched. The addiction to craving. In Greek mythology, there is a man named Erysichthon, a wealthy man of Thessaly. He lived only for his desires and held the gods in contempt. He wanted to expand his palace and host a grand feast, so he took his men to the sacred grove of Demeter. There was one tree he had his eye on, draped in prayer ribbons and wreaths. That giant tree was clearly divine. The laborers hesitated. Erysichthon clicked his tongue, and he grabbed the axe. A priestess appeared to stop him. Demeter's one and only warning: this tree is not yours. Erysichthon laughed, and he threatened the priestess with his axe. The warning was over, and a curse fell upon Erysichthon, the curse of hunger. As the hunger struck, he ate, but the hunger did not vanish. It only grew stronger. The curse was not mere hunger. It was an addiction. An addiction where the more you consume, the hungrier you become. Like a fire that devours a mountain and still wants more, his stomach became a bottomless pit. His entire fortune was spent on the price of a meal, yet the hunger remained. He sold his daughter, Mestra, for the price of food. Mestra became a slave. Fortunately, she was given a way out: the power of transformation, the ability to escape. Mestra returned home, but to Erysichthon, it only looked as if his meal money had returned. He sold Mestra again and again, until finally Mestra did not return. Erysichthon was left alone, but he wasn't sad. He was just hungry. He chose his final menu. It was himself. This haunting myth speaks of desire, an unquenchable thirst, and a narcotic that blinds us to the very concept of enough. The less a practitioner has to do, the more strictly they must master the basics. One of those basics is eating in moderation. Coincidentally, this is a passage written in an ancient Buddhist scripture. Why appetite, of all things? The moment you eat, sweetness spreads through your mouth. When you are full, a sense of lethargy sets in. You feel good. We do not eat for survival. We eat to feel that pleasure. That is when addiction begins. When the act of seeking pleasure is repeated rewards train the brain to chase the cue, faster and more automatically. The problem is, there are people who actively target this broken circuit. This is where it becomes unfair. We haven't chopped down a sacred tree. We haven't blasphemed against a god. We were simply born with brains vulnerable to pleasure. Yet a curse, meticulously designed by others, has descended upon us. There are business models that get paid when you don't feel enough. The fact that you cannot put down your smartphone before falling asleep tonight is not because your willpower is weak. It is because brilliant engineers designed it to make you act that way. Newspapers and books have an end. When you close the last page, the brain signals that it is enough. Even if it isn't the end, we know how far we have come. But the infinite scroll has no bottom. The brain never receives the signal to stop. It's not just content, it's a design pattern built to remove stopping cues. You begin to want the next thing, and the next, and the next. You feeling satisfied and closing the app. From the corporation's perspective, that is a failure. Companies want you to crave, so they latch onto that thirst and amplify it. Swipe, swipe, and swipe again. That destined partner on a dating app who feels like they might appear at any moment. That hilarious video that could pop up anytime. The core of this design is uncertainty. The brain loses its composure in the face of unpredictable rewards. It reacts frantically. Who will it be next? Will the next video be funny? That uncertainty spikes the brain's learning signal, and the loop tightens. The cruelty of this mechanism reaches its peak at the gambling table. They simply wager money in addition to time. In particular, the near miss, the failure that looks like a win, drives the brain to madness. Near misses don't feel like losses. Your brain reacts as if it almost won. Losses do not stop them. Even more, they create a drive filled with conviction. I just need to win once to pay it all back. With this sweet whisper, the losses already incurred are forgotten. They bet everything on an uncertain future, sacrificing tomorrow's self to satisfy today's craving. In the end, just to drink the salt water known as dopamine, you are betting everything you have. Then, why does this desire rise? Because we are lacking? Because we are unhappy? Desire operates differently. 22-year-old Taylor Swift wrote this upon seeing someone she fell for at first sight. This is me, praying that this was the very first page, not where the storyline ends. In that ecstatic moment of falling in love, we cannot simply stay in that feeling. We immediately look for more, for what comes next. At the same time we feel good, we become anxious that it might end, and the brain commands us to find an even greater pleasure. Scripture pinpoints this mechanism exactly. Craving begins with sensation. The moment you feel that something is good, the mind automatically presses the hold button. I want to keep feeling this. Don't let it disappear. This is attachment and the beginning of addiction. It is worth revisiting the story of Pandora's box. Zeus gave Pandora the box and told her never to open it. But think about it. If someone gives you a folder and says, you must never look at the contents inside, how can you possibly resist? Pandora's box was designed to be opened from the very start. The disasters of the world did not begin when the box was physically opened. Just as your hand automatically reaches for an attractive thumbnail, the moment Pandora saw the box and imagined the incredible contents inside, the disaster had already begun. You might ask, but don't we need ambition to progress? Isn't the drive to achieve a good thing? However, unstoppable desire is not an achievement. It is a glaring weakness. Napoleon proved this. In 1812, Napoleon was already the hegemon of Europe, but he could not stop. Because the more he won, the larger his desire for victory grew. He turned his gaze to a place more dangerous, colder, and further away: Russia. Napoleon cannot stop. The Allied forces of Europe knew this clearly. His weakness was not a lack of military power. It was the certainty that he would not stop. The enemy planned their strategy around his desire. They waited for him to march deep into their territory. They waited until supply lines were cut, until the bitter winter arrived, and until his soldiers froze to death. Napoleon's craving for a greater victory became the very trap that destroyed his empire. Our lives are the same. If I can just win this once, if I just buy this, if I just get that promotion, there is no target easier to exploit than a person captivated by such desires. They ultimately become prey for scammers or drown in the swamp of burnout. The act of trying to fill that desire is like drinking sweet poison or gulping down salt water to quench a thirst. So, how can we end this terrible thirst? George Washington, the first president of the United States, showed us the answer. He made the exact opposite choice of Napoleon. After winning the War of Independence, everyone wanted him to become king. People wanted him to rule for life. But at the very pinnacle of that power, Washington declared, "I will return to my home." He knew when it was time to stop. Because he stepped down, America was able to lay the foundation for democracy. Washington finished his journey as a great precedent and returned to his farm. This news reached King George III of England. Upon hearing it, he said, "If he really does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." It was a display of superhuman restraint that even an enemy king could hardly believe. Eliminating desire is not about achievement or having a bigger desire. It is the ability to draw a line yourself, right here, right now. If there is a desire currently tormenting you, dissect that object. Ask yourself 3 things. First, how does it taste? Second, what is the price for that taste? Third, once you have tasted it, how far away is the exit? Do not just think about the taste. Think about the cost and the long road back. Lastly, it is impossible to eliminate desire completely. We are human, but we can choose our attitude toward it. When you feel joy, if you clutch it tight and demand it last forever, that joy turns into anxiety. But if you say, "This is good, but it cannot last forever," and open your clenched hand, that joy becomes a cool breeze that brushes past you. This is joy rooted in letting go. Now, observe every moment you feel something good, a delicious taste, a kind word, or a spark of love. If you hear a voice inside saying, "I want to keep this forever," or "I want something stronger," realize it then. That is the signal of rising desire. The fire of emotion is not started by the situation. It is created by our own hands trying to clutch it.